Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how I crochet the mesh stitch border which I featured on the Jolly Holiday blanket crochet along. So this border features both the mesh stitch and a twisted single crochet to make the border ever so slightly more stable. Now before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so you never miss out on another one of my crochet patterns or tutorials again. The materials that I'm using match my Jolly Holiday blanket, so I'm showing this tutorial using Paintbox Yarns Simply Aran. I've got a colour A and a colour B. The reason I've got those the wrong way round, I'm going to use the contrast colour first and then I'm finishing off my edging in a different colour to really highlight those twisted stitches. So this is champagne white, and then I also have, which I think is shade number 202, and then I have slate green, which is 226. So these are the colours that I've made in my hodgepodge blanket, my second one, and is up to you which colours you use, but I would recommend using a contrasting colour for that final round to really make those twisted stitches stand out. I'm going to be using a slightly larger hook than's recommended for the yarn. I'm using a 5.5mm, and that's only because I've used that same size hook throughout this whole pattern. The reason I've used a 5.5mm is to give the blanket an overall more drapey feel. If I'd used the recommended hook size, I would make my edging in the same size. If you're following along with the Jolly Holiday crochet along, you will of course joined all of your panels using the mesh stitch, I hope, but if not, you can still use this border. Now this border uses a stitch multiple of 2, so an even number of stitches, and it can be added onto any blanket or any other project if you'd like to feature the mesh stitch as a border. So gather those materials and of course gather your project, and let's get started using our first colour. Now if you've joined your project using the mesh stitch as a join, you will have worked that on the wrong side of your project, but the border is worked with the right side of your project facing, so of course it looks beautiful and you've got the right side of those stitches facing you. So make sure that you have your project with the right side facing up, and I'm going to be joining in any of the edge chain 2 corner spaces. And we begin with a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now this chain 4 counts as our double crochet and our first chain 1, so we're going to skip the next stitch and begin working our mesh stitch into the next. So we work 1 double crochet into the next, we chain 1 and skip the next stitch. Now we're going to repeat this all the way across, working our double crochet, chain 1, skip the next and repeat. It gives us these lovely open boxes which I think match our filet crochet style of the Jolly Holiday blanket very well. Also look great if you use it with a granny stitch blanket, because it will obviously be a nice difference to all those 3 treble crochets. We're going to repeat this all the way along our blanket until we reach our last double crochet stitch that's worked here, and then I'm going to show you how to work across the join of your panels if you've used your mesh stitch join. I'll see you shortly once you've worked across to your panel join or your square join. Once you've worked along that panel ready to reach that first join, we skip the chain 2 corner space, make sure we've done that chain 1, and we're going to work into the base of that double crochet in our join to create our block there. We chain 1 to skip over the remainder of that double crochet, bringing us back to our next chain 2 corner space, ready to continue repeating that pattern of chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next. We're going to continue to repeat this all the way across, working across our joins in that same fashion, placing the double crochet not into the chain 2 space, but into the base of that double crochet in that join. We then continue on all the way across to our corner, and that's where I'm going to meet you to show you how to work a beautiful corner for this mesh stitch border. I will see you shortly after you've continued across, working across your joins where required, and I'll meet you in the next corner. Once you've worked all the way across and reached that final double crochet, done your chain 1, we are ready to work into our chain 2 corner space on the edge of our blanket. We're going to be working 3 different stitches into our chain 2 corner space, and it's quite a wide corner, but it's very pretty. So we start with working a US double crochet followed by a chain of 2. We then wrap the yarn around the hook twice to work a US treble crochet, the same as a UK double treble. So we've wrapped the yarn around the hook twice. We're inserting back into that same chain 2 corner space. Yarn over and bring a loop up. You should have 4 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2, and then yarn over for a 3rd time and pull through the last 2. We then make our chain of 2, and we're going to finish again working into the same chain 2 corner space with a standard US double crochet followed by our chain 1, and then we are ready to continue our pattern. So we skip that first stitch, ready to work a double crochet into the next. We chain 1, skip the next stitch, working a double crochet into the next, and that has our corner worked, and we are continuing our mesh stitch all the way around the other edge of our blanket, working across our join in the same way by working that double crochet into the base before starting again in our chain 2 corner space. You can see all the different elements of this round time stamped for you individually, from the beginning, how to work across your join, how to work your corner. They're all time stamped individually. So continue to repeat this around, working across your join, working your corners on each edge corner of your blanket, and I'll meet you back to join our first round, ready to continue on to the second round of this border, and then we will be ready to learn how to work the twisted single crochet. I will see you shortly. So I'm working my final corner into that same chain 2 space as our chain 4 that we did. Chain 2, wrap the yarn twice to work our US treble crochet into that same space, work our chain 2, and this time we're just going to be slip stitching to that 3rd chain, 1, 2, 3, and that joins our round for the end of round 1. So we've recreated our corner because we'd already started it with that initial chain 4. So continuing on with our contrasting colour, we begin by making a chain of 1, and we're going to be working a US half double crochet into each stitch and chain across. So we are going to yarn over, reinsert our hook into the same place that we joined, pull through all 3 loops, and then we need to work into our chain 1 space. So we're just yarning over and completing our next half double crochet. We're working into each stitch and chain around. So we're going to continue this all the way across, including working into those chain 1 spaces and stitches across our join. Get attacked by my yarn. We're not doing anything special over where we've joined this time because we've already established the stitch pattern. We are simply going to be working 1 US half double crochet into each stitch and each chain 1 space, into each stitch and each chain 1 space around. So continue to repeat that all the way across. Where's our first corner? Until you reach your first corner, and I'll meet you here so we can confirm exactly what we're doing in this corner space. Once we've worked that half double crochet all the way across into each stitch and chain 1 space across, we have reached our corner. I've worked into the top of that first double crochet in the corner and then into our chain 2 corner space, or the first one. We are going to work, oops, the wrong stitch. We're going to start by working 2 half double crochets into that first chain 2 corner space, then into the top of that treble crochet, the UK double treble, we're going to be working a half double. We then chain 2 before working an additional half double crochet all into the top of that treble crochet. That allows us to rotate, and we're going to be working 2 half double crochets into that next chain 2 space before we continue working across, working 1 half double crochet into each stitch and chain 1 space across. That corner just looks so pretty, and we've still got a chain 2 corner space that we're going to be using when we come back with our twisted stitches. So we can continue to repeat this all the way around our blanket, working into each chain 1 space and into the top of each stitch across. When you reach your corner, the corner is time stamped separately for you, so you can repeat that again. And I'm going to meet you all the way back when we are ready to join round 2, ready to change colour and work our twisted single crochets. I will see you shortly once you've worked round 2 all the way round, and we can join it together to go into round 3. I'm just working my final half double crochet into the top of that first double crochet of our corner. Of course, we work 2 half double crochets into that chain 2 space. Into the top of the treble crochet, we work half double, chain 2, another half double, and then we're going to work our final 2 half double crochets into the top of that chain 2 space, and we can join into the top of that first half double crochet that we made. Now before I do that, I am going to be yarning over in my new colour because I'm changing to a contrasting colour for round 3. So I'm just going to do that to pull that nice and tight, and then I'm ready to proceed. Just going to do my little chain 1 for the beginning of round 3. That chain 1 does not count, it's only to help me secure this colour. And for this round, we're working in our 3rd loop. I've become a little bit obsessed of working into the 3rd loop because it does create such a wonderful look, but it can be a little bit challenging, especially on that first one, to work out where you're working. We've got the right side of our project facing us, so we want this stitch to flip forward, and we're going to be working, gosh, that's hard to show you with this colour. This is the back of my project. There is my 3rd loop. So we have our front loop here, which we come up from. So there's our front loop, there's our back loop, and then just a little bit further down, move those ends out of the way, you will see a 3rd loop. And by working into the 3rd loop, it leaves the front of your stitch unworked, and it gives you the most beautiful little added bonus into your edging. You can work it, of course, just working under your stitch as normal, but I'm going to be working into my 3rd loop. Now we're going to be working a twisted single crochet, the same as a twisted double crochet, into each stitch across, all the way across into our corner space. So let's do the first few together. So we're going to insert our hook. As I said, you can go under both loops if you want to, or be brave and find that 3rd loop. We yarn over, bring our loop up. We're going to rotate our hook anti-clockwise, which is, that way. If that makes sense, yep. So we're kind of as if the hands on the clock are going that way. So we rotate our hook that way as well. If you are left-handed, you'll probably be watching this video will be flipped and it will look like I'm turning clockwise, and I am if I'm left-handed, if that makes sense. So obviously you can rotate in either direction. For me, I just find it easier to rotate in the anti-clockwise direction. So if you imagine the hands of a clock, once you've yarned over, we simply, there's 12 o'clock, we're coming all the way back to 12 in an anti-clockwise direction. That's it. That's the only special thing about this stitch. We then yarn over, I've done it too many times, and pull through both loops, and it leaves the front 2 loops of our stitch. So going into the next 3rd loop, so there's the front of our stitch. So we've got front, back and 3rd. Yarn over, bring a loop up, rotate anti-clockwise. Make a point of bringing your loops all the way back to the biggest part of your hook, because it makes it a little bit easier to yarn over and pull through. And we're just going to repeat this all the way around. I am working into that 3rd loop, anti-clockwise, pull through, insert into the 3rd loop, bring a loop up, rotate anti-clockwise and pull through. And it gives us a braided edge, and I find this a lot easier than doing the reverse single crochet. It's all about the twist when you're rotating. So this is what I mean by working into the 3rd loop. It gives you a little bit more texture and really kind of edges our blanket in probably the most beautiful way, in my opinion. I really, really like this. I love the crab stitch, or the reverse single crochet as most people know it as. And this for me is just an easier way to do it. As long as you're rotating your hook in the same direction every single time, it's going to look absolutely stunning. You don't have to be overly tight with it. There's always a risk or fear that it's going to fall off of our hook. But it doesn't. And we just keep rotating, and it just gives us that beautiful braided edge to our project. So you can complete this all the way up to your corner, which is, oh goodness, where is it? And I'm going to meet you at our corner. So we're going to be working one twisted single crochet into each 3rd loop across, or of course you can work it into the stitch as I suggested, but it does give you a nice little extra by working it into that 3rd loop. And I'll meet you for our corner shortly. Once we've worked all the way across to our chain 2 corner space, we are simply going to work 3 twisted, I nearly did normal, 3 twisted single crochets into that chain 2 corner space. So we're working 3 to do a slight increase without adding too many stitches, because the corner is pretty as it is. We are then going to continue working into that 3rd loop or under our stitch, into each stitch around, working your twisted single crochet. That is pretty much it. I'm just going to make sure that in each corner we work 3 twisted single crochets, and then of course we're working into each stitch around to complete our beautiful blanket. And I really don't think you can beat this edging, especially when it's worked into that 3rd loop. It really does give you that extra texture. I really do love how this twisted single crochet combined with those half double crochets where we're working into that 3rd loop, it really helps to stabilize our mesh stitch border, and working it in a contrasting color makes it pop. But if you were to work it in the same colour, it would still look just as beautiful. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet patterns or tutorials again. And I will see you in the next video.